Public outrage is building over an effigy of the Gauteng Education MEC Panyaza Lesufi. It was hung on a tree outside the Basic Education Department's offices in Pretoria yesterday. This follows several threats that have been made to Lesufi and his family since the ANC-led government's decision to change the language policy at certain schools in the province from Afrikaans only to parallel medium.
Another day at the helm of Gauteng Education, talking human rights as part of Freedom Day celebrations. It's a challenging position in a province where some schools still appear to oppose admissions and appointments on the basis of skin color, and where black and white peoples are still separated. Now, fresh allegations of racism. The Gauteng MEC, the target. In this picture, two men are captured hanging an effigy on a noose. The placard accuses Lesufi of raping Afrikaans.
Non-racialism is the future. You can't stop it. There's no way. And if we thought that it will be as simple as ABCD, I think we are going to be wrong. We knew people will sacrifice, people will die, people will be victimized, and all those things. So I'm excited that I've got principals who believe about the future that we are talking about. We've got schools that really believe that this school belongs to everyone. And those that still want schools that belong to them alone and them alone, unfortunately they're in the minority. And if we elevate their insult and give them the glory that it is, I really feel that we encourage them to do wrong things.
Lesufi says he and his family have been harassed.
I've been a target since day one I took office. People have done all things that are unprintable. People have said things that I can't say.
Gauteng ANC calls these cowardly racist acts against the transformation of the province's basic education system.
Dumelang ra la amogela mo go Daily Thetha on SABC 1 nna ka lebitso ke nna Nicolette wa ka Mashile ngwana wa kwa Bushbuckridge Mapulaneng e atolakang ka matsogene ke Sesi Fortune wa ka Madlala. It is post 1994, 24 years after our first democratic elections, and still rosana re lwa taba ya racism ko dikolong. Did we rush this reconciliation? Did we expect gore gona le button ba ipresang go Roger King now post 1994 male mango gona kena at any school and we're going to have non-racial schools? Remember that you are part of our conversation, so you can join us by using any of our social media pages. Just remember to use the hashtag Daily Thetha or you can phone 011-339-1315. Kini, I remember being in high school. I was at Hoërskool Rapferera in White River, and I was the only black kid, first black kid in the hostel, and the kids wouldn't sit with me.
Yo, gogonzima kakhulu ngiyacabanga nje, and mhlambe babekwazi ukuthi bekuchazele babe vele bekushinje ukhala wathi.
No, they didn't speak to me, but they didn't look at me. Every time I sit them, they go and I'll be like, how ngenzeni? And I didn't understand because I was a child.
And ngiyazama ukucabanga ukuthi kwenzani emqondweni wengane lokho. That's what we're talking about namhlanje on Daily Thetha. Igama lami nguKini nonke waka Shandu, and sifuna ukwazi nokubona yonke lento esibheka emaphepheni usuku nosuku ukhala nge-racism yenzakala ezikoleni ukuthi umnyombo wakhona yini, nanokuthi kusanabelungu abacabanga ukuthi izikole zabo ezabo kahle abantu abamnyama bazokwenzani lapho. That's what we're talking about. Otherwise, welcome to Daily Thetha nonke nikhona. Uncle, to you, my sister, your name first, and then do you think ukuthi abelungu basenakho lokho ukuthi bacabanga ukuthi kusenezikole ezibelong abamhlophe kuphela abantu abamnyama bangasondeli?
Well, my name is Dolores, yes. And I still think ukuthi abantu abanjalo they still exist.
Yeah.
And angazi ukuthi singayithekla kanjani this issue, but we can go on and on and on.
Yeah.
Sibe nama programs amaningi akhuluma ngayo this issue, but as long as we do not move on.
Yeah.
Start ama steps Nelson Mandela took after being treated unfairly for so many years. Angeke sibe right. So we have to move on.
We've seen izikole zasemalokishini where kuba nabantwana abamnyama kuphela, and it seems as if it's okay. But why siba nenkinga abelungu abelungu bebemhlophe bodwa kuphela ngokubona kwakho?
Eish, that's a tough one, hey. But I think the issue of racism,
yeah,
it broad.
Yeah.
It broad, because when it comes to blacks,
yeah,
umntwana omlungu ngeze esikoleni sabantu abamnyama sizomtreata the way abelungu abatreata ngakhona umuntu omnyama ngesikoleni sabelungu.
So you think that is never racist towards
yes.
White people if bengeze esikoleni zabantu abamnyama?
Yes, I do.
Oh, that's another point right there, Nicolette.
Yes. Let's speak to my brother here. My brother, have you ever had experience ya racism ko sekolong? Ko potsa ka lebitso la gago.
Oh, Justice to Kashabalala. I mean, I have experienced that. And that thing, ikona iyenzakala. You know, I remember back then,
How far back is it?
I was in high school.
And which year was it?
It was 2007.
Okay.
2007,
That's
yes.
fresh.
I remember, bewuthi mawusukuma wena ne-school bag sakho. Going to uyodla mhlambe emadeskini. Uzothi mawufika lapha kuhlela ingane zabelungu, they'll stand up and go. Uzibuza ukuthi ingabe yini inkinga? Uthi mawufika eklasini bahleli lapha. Mawufika wena uthi uyahlala, they move.
And how did that make you feel?
I was heartbroken, Fethu. Namanje for me, I think that thing Fethu ngeke imani idlule nje kanjalo. It's still there.
And Kini, this is what we have to talk about, because what does that do to a young black kid who hasn't really a shaped identity yet, and then you go to a school where you've got other kids and they're making you feel bad just on the base of your color?
Cabanga from umntwana omncane because esikhathini esiningi kwekuthi makuziswa kulezi ikole zobohlanga oluhlukahlukene uzothola imfundo engconywana, but mafika lapha actually the abuse ngokwe-skin color sakhe ahlukumezeke ngendlela ongawazi uyibone lento obuthi uyayikhanda again igcina ingasenzekanga, but also kwesinye isikhathi abanye abantu bathi kahle kahle we need to move on and not ukuthi sidwele kakhulu about racism this and that, and Gift is one of those people abacabanga ukuthi we need to move on. Angisho Gift?
Very true. I feel like we need to move on. It's a high time whereby you need to focus on future and forget the past, because you know,
how can we forget the past if abafundi abamnyama babizwa ngamagama athize, because cabanga ukuthi after 94 akekho umuntu okumele acwase ngokwebala lakhe nanobuhlanga bakhe?
No, I understand that ukuthi basekhona abantu abamnyama who are still being discriminated, but then we shouldn't look at this issue in a one-way approach. It's a two-way symmetric approach, because there are still white people who are being discriminated, but then we don't take them into consideration. But come to a point whereby umuntu omnyama uba discriminated, that is when you're going to take actions. No, see, react, the person that you know, go to Twitter, start to do this and this and this. But then it's umuntu omhlophe as a discriminator. We won't take it into consideration.
Are you saying that sometimes thina bantu abamnyama we are exaggerating this racism thing?
I wouldn't label it as exaggeration, because exaggeration it's a strong word, but what I could say we still have those roots of discrimination. We haven't healed from the past, because if I remember really well, and from the history that I've learned, immediately Obama Mandela he was like, no, we need to move on. Let's forget. As long as there's a platform would know as such when they saw so at
the end of the day, we need to heal from this process.
Exactly. Before we move on, because to move on is possible.
I find it very difficult for us to simplify and say let's move on, because if you look at the people that are racist right now, it's 17 to 24-year-olds. They're beating up our fathers, they're beating up our children at school. These are not kids that come from the past. The kids that are victims are not kids that come from the past.
Exactly, siswami. Sizomove on njani. Even ngoku uyabona kule ngxoxo sinayo ngoku. Sorry gama lami ngiculumayo. Kule ngxoxo sinayo ngoku. Asibabona abantu abamhlophe. Uyayibona lento. Like move on njani, because kaloku lento it's not only about us. It's not racist. We are not talking about discrimination. Discrimination about between abantu abamnyama. Sithetha discrimination between like the certain race and the certain race. Where are they now? Are they willing to move on?
That's the question that we're going to be asking. Are they willing to move on? Because sometimes it feels like we have this conversation, we then create our own solution and say, okay, let's move on. But where's the other party? How can you move on by yourself?
And one of the things give us a call at home. It's 011-339-1315. Some in separate after this.
The Gauteng Education Department says meetings are being planned with various organizations and individuals in a bid to end the violent protests at Hoërskool Hoofverval in Vereeniging. Members of the EFF, the ANC and student body COSAs have been protesting outside the school since Wednesday. The standoff between the protesters and parents of learners escalated into violence, resulting in the arrest of 15 people and the injury of several others.
For pupils at Hoërskool Hoofverval, the academic year began with a protest outside the gates. Rubber bullets and stun grenades were fired, with the police vehicle petrol bombed. The school is trying to maintain normality.
We identify that there's some kids that's got some trauma. Well, it's obvious. They see stuff that they're not used to. And I don't see protesters. They see them maybe on the media and maybe on TV. So it's not close to home. But this was close to home now. I mean, it was right in front of our main gate.
Protesters are demanding that 55 non-Afrikaans speaking pupils be admitted to the school despite the High Court's ruling, saying the school does not have the capacity to admit them.
From the school side, it is our request for everybody to respect the court order. There is an appeal process to follow if you are not happy with the order, and I believe that's being followed by MEC Lesofie.
Since Wednesday, parents along with the ANC, EFF and COSAS have picketed outside. While on the other side of the road, Afrikaans activists and residents gathered to ensure the pupils' safety.
Welcome back to Daily Thetha. And racism mo dikolong tsa rona mo South Africa post 1994. We still see it happening. We had Hoërskool Pretoria, it happened there. We see it at Jeppystown, it happening there. We see it at St. John's, it's happening there. So there are various schools where racism keeps manifesting itself, and it does not feel like there is a way for us to actually move forward. To have this conversation, we're joined by Professor Sarah Nuttall, who is a director at Wits Institute for Social and Economic Research. And then we have also Steve Mabona, who's the Department of Education spokesperson. Welcome to Daily Thetha.
Thank you.
Sarah, Professor Sarah, let's go straight into this conversation and perhaps maybe look at behind us. For us to go forward, we need to know what is happening behind us. The law of racial segregation, 1948. 1976, we have the Soweto uprising. Has this contributed to where we are today?
Yeah, of course it has. But I want to lay down the challenge straight away to white South Africans to deal with this issue.
Okay.
I don't think it should be left to black South Africans. I've been working in schools. There are many different kinds of schools in this country. I've been working in interracial schools, mostly in Johannesburg. I have a child of color, and there are a number of things that I think we need to proactively do to deal with racism. I think that collectively many of us thought that non-racialism would somehow help us to deal with racism. 20 years later, it has not.
Was it a bandage? Was it merely a bandage?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I think that it was a genuine hope based on a very long political process in South Africa that we could expect collectively that non-racialism would have helped us to deal with racism. But there's been a resurgence of racism, so we need other mechanisms, other kinds of languages, ways to deal with it. And in fact, reimagine what a school is and what an anti-racist school looks like. And that's the kind of work I've been doing.
Okay.
Steve, let me come to you, because if after 94, abazali abaningi, especially black communities, bajabula ukuthi now they can actually bathatha abantwana babo bayise ey'koleni abengafisa labo ukufunda kuzona. But it seems as if not much was done to make sure that sonke siyakwazi ukuxhumana, siya-understandana as one. What could have been done better ukuze avoid the situation that we have right now?
Look, I think what is important, it's more engagement, you know, with each other. You know, we need to engage more because there's a sense that is coming from, most especially your Afrikaans or single medium schools, where they will say, if you bring other people, then the culture of the school is going to change. You know, that fear of the unknown. Meanwhile, in this country, we will understand that we've been segregated for many years. So we need to engage more, because in other schools, Africa, single medium schools, where they have accommodated, you know, English learners, we had to engage with them, and they embraced, you know, the fact that the numbers are changing. The numbers are going down, where you will have Afrikaans-speaking people in an area on their own. You find that in an area you have people who are speaking English, who want to be taught in English. Not only black people, there are white South Africans who are in those areas who want their children to be taught in English. But you can't. You then have a challenge where you can't access those schools because there's an element of fear. But we are saying we will continue to engage more.
But also, you mentioned something, Guti, the fear of unknown to these schools. Have you used some of the schools as case studies to show them that actually it can happen, it can be done without harming anything?
Definitely. I mean, recently there's 2 schools in the West End where we had accommodated, English-speaking learners. We created 2-3 classes there, and they are continuing. The progress is very well. So you can tell that if we introduce this English language in the single media, most especially with Africans, there's some sense of embracement where you have the English learners being embraced, and you will continue to have an element of subtle racism, because you'll understand that change doesn't come easy. You need to have change management, you need to engage more and make sure that the learners understand that now we are in a different phase, including parents, because you can't do it without engagement of parents. Once parents embrace it, then from home they will be assisting the process to teach their children to say, look, we are in a different environment now. We need to embrace the fact that we need to live with other kids from other races.
Professor Sarah, in the clip that was playing where they were asking to hang MEC Lusufi, they spoke about how he's raping the Afrikaners, right? Ntate Mabona here speaks about the fear of their culture being diluted. Should these Afrikaans schools, which most of them are government schools, should they be left alone to preserve their Afrikaner culture in the schools?
No, absolutely not. I think that they should be integrated into a conversation that we have as South Africans about, again, what an anti-racist school looks like.
Okay.
And I think that what we need to do, amongst other things, is to equip young black South Africans from the age of 7 or 8 to know what racism looks like. Because we have found that young people don't always have the vocabulary to name the feelings that they feel. That's the first thing. So I think that we need to collectively as South Africans build a policy around anti-racism. This is what it looks like. We then need to throw the challenge to schools and teachers. This is the kind of school, as a South African school, that
schools should have anti-racism policies.
I do believe so. I absolutely believe so. They should have an anti-racism office. They should have an anonymous app where students can complain. They should, and white students in particular should learn to be undefensive and to take criticism.
But how far are we with this policy? I mean, it's easy to speak about it.
Listen, since the St. John's Affair and a number of others, a lot of us are working in schools. About 35 South African schools are adopting a policy.
Okay.
It's an absolutely in-your-face policy. Here's what racism looks like. Here's what you can do about it. And here's why white South Africans need to take particular care.
Just one last question.
And moral criticism as well.
Does it tackle structural racism? Because it's easy to speak about racism where a person calls somebody the K word, because that's easy racism for all of us to identify.
Yes, it does.
But structural racism?
The governance structures of schools. Let's revisit them right away. Who's sitting on those structures? Who makes the decisions? It's not right at the moment.
Yeah, just to add, I mean,
let me quickly just take a call, Stephen Zobuagwena njengamanje. Let's go to eThekwini. Sandile Mapolobo, welcome to iTheLithet.
Kunjani mfowethu?
Sikhona mfowethu njani wena?
Ngikhona mfowethu. Angibeke njenganibambezeli mhlawumbe ba. Cha mfowethu, yabona mfowethu ukuthi siyilizwe libi thina wena bafo ngoba sigude organizing. Mase kufanele senze kuba inkinga. Yikho ngiye ngitshele ukuthi South Africa yinhle ekhulumeni kodwa ekwenzeni ayikwazi.
Ukuthathela lokho okhulumayo.
Uyabona bafo, kukhona into efanele icacisele yona. Uyabona nje manje ngizokhuluma ngaleyo show, ngikhulume ngezinto eziningi. Kukhona okwakhuluma lapho mfowethu ethi isikhathi esiningi ithini esikhuluma ngalento. Labantu abakaze bayihluphe. Awukaze uzwe kuthiwa kukhona ishow abelungu babiza abantu abamnyama bafuna ukuthi kube khona that understanding. We understand?
Yeah.
Kodwa thina njalo ehlale sibancenga labantu. No, angifuni ukuthi mhlambe i-inflame statement le ngithi asilwe. Ngithi kodwa ithina njalo esihlale njalo siphosithawula kubona ukuthi asixoxe. You understand the thing short. Ubani umuntu owenziwe wrong lana? Ubani umuntu ohlukunyeziwe iminyaka emingaki? kanti kufanele ukuthi kwenzeke kanjani ukuze abelungu babone ekutheni ukuthi isikhathi sifikile manje ekutheni ukuthi kufanele bayiyeke lento abayenzayo. Okubuhlungu-ke ukuthi ngaphambi kokuthi ngiqede okubuhlungu ukuthi lento mawibuka i-hereditary iyahamba iya enganeni ba.
Okay, maphola sathola uhlangothi lakho mfowethu. Maybe I should bounce this to Steve, a quick one before say break in nje ukuthi it seems as if us black people we are begging white people. Is that a sentiment very ekhona njengamanje?
Look, when you look at where we come from as a country, probably negotiations, that's what led to this democracy. So probably we are building on that, because if you going to say others are begging, others are not begging, others, I don't think that will be progressive really. Hence we are saying when we meet with the SGBs, we infuse an element of let's have a change of our code of conduct. Because each and every school has a code of conduct where learners, they need to know the code of conduct because it's the conduct that is embraced by the parent body.
Ngithola kahle kakhulu sambe se break in must be a break in sikhuluma ngalolu daba nawe fona ekhaya sizothi umbono wakho uthini efile yakuthinta sambe sokhokhela belomsabo.
My brother? Are you good, man?
Yeah.
Sure. So on Daily Thetha today, my G, we are talking about racism in schools, right? Yeah. And this is, sparked by the recent, headlines that we've been seeing with your Parktown boys, GP boys, and there's just been a lot of issues that pertains to racism in schools. And I want to know, from you as an individual, would you say that you experience some sort of, racism in your schooling environment?
Definitely. I feel like racism actually, it's never really died. Especially when I was in school, I never really looked at color at all, so I always had a very mixed group of friends. So when I would obviously chill with like my white friends, they'd be like, why do you chill with like coloreds or blacks or stuff? And then when and it's sort of a thing of everyone used to ask, why are you chilling with the other sort of color?
If you're a black child in the school that I went to, the racism will be very hard to pick up, but it's there. Because you're used to, in Potchefstroom, black people are used to being, subjected to racism. And then it's so bad to the extent where you'll get like black kids defending racism, not understanding that you were actually in a system where you're just used to what you're seeing. It's not that there's no racism, you're just used to the racism because you were brought up from that type of lifestyle.
There was a bit of racism here and there, but it wasn't something hectic, it wasn't on blast, it wasn't blatant K-words being thrown around, but it was in some instances implied.
Do you think then if you're the only black person or you're the only colored person or the only white person in that particular environment, you are then able to report, that racism that you're experiencing in school, and because you're reporting it to the dominating race, are they likely to take it seriously?
I think you can't, if the environment is full of one type of people, perhaps they don't really realize it as well, because it sort of becomes a norm in those situations. And now if that's the only type of thing you're surrounded with, it's quite hard to pick it up. You only start to pick it up when your fellow people pick it up as well. So I think numbers are important.
A lot of people are very scared, if I'm honest with you. Obviously also seeing with terms of bullying and stuff like that also stems down to racism as well. A lot of the time people are just really scared to say anything, and it kind of sucks, but I feel like if we obviously voice it out and we say something about it, I feel like people will be brave enough to say something.
It always starts at the head. If we can get people that are at that age, that ripe age, that have been through those things to change, then we're good. Then we as students will learn.
I find comfort amongst my own kind of thing. Not that I'm racist or I don't like white people. I have white friends, but you don't understand if you're not black how it feels to be racially bullied. You don't know how it feels.
Welcome back to It Daily Thetha namanje sakhuluma ngobandlululo lenzakala ekoleni. What can we do as abantu or mele siyeke kanjena nje izoyisolve yona? That's exactly what we're talking about today. Also ekhaya sineze ithuba lokuthi uphefumule nawe siza ukuthi uthini umbono wakho. Let's see on social media kwenzakalani. Something coming in from Khadi Boma Ituti. I had a friend who was bullied by a white person at school, and And when it was reported, he was not suspended, but a black child was accused of stealing white child stationery and was suspended at school. Whites are always perfect at school, and I don't understand why. On the card, njengamanje we do have u-SA2 Ncwama, and u-SA2 ngomunye wabantu abahlukumezeka esikoleni, but you believe ukuthi wahlukunyezwa ngenxa ukuthi umuntu omnyama.
Yeah.
Tell us the story.
Okay, basically LO class, but normally abantwana abelungu, they're not in our classes. But
why? Is it the same language school?
No, it's not the same language school.
So Afrikaans and English. Okay.
Yes. Normally Afrikaans learners is in a class as zodwa. Then English is in a class to zodwa. But that day, a class was mixed.
Okay.
So basically, kuya na class le. So nangene class and I sat behind a white guy. So after a while, the white guys, the other girl, the white girl was spray a perfume. So because Ben has an amakamawa at that time. I just waved in front of the girl. Perfume because I have sinuses. But then the girl just acted up. If I have a problem, I should get out of the class. I should. So numbers good in the air. I'd go anyway, but get out of the class. So it was like, okay, an argument between black learners and the white girl. An argument, and then Kulapamagama will use like the K word. Let's go to we are acting as K words right now. And then okay, sharp, okay, we're acting as K word, but ngoku iphelile lento since it was like okay, now the thing is over, leto perfume so let's leave it. But no, yeah, carry on until the guy he stood up in front of my table that time. And then I'm challenging him. Because apparently the girl was his girlfriend. I'm challenging him and his girlfriend, I'm disrespecting him. Then he headbutted me, like and talk. Then I moved back. And then he was coming again, which slapped him because of his food. So I slapped him and then he pushed me over a chair. Then and then the teacher was going to say officing, disciplinary teacher. Then this figure we had to tell our stories, good what happened. Okay, I beg stories like I stood up out of nowhere and slapped him. Just like that. Okay. Then it was my turn to tell some story where I was told to keep quiet.
By who told you to keep quiet?
The disciplinary teacher. He told me to keep quiet. Okay, he listened to his side of the story.
Before you go on, Esetu, it seems as if white people are always perfect at school. Did you feel that?
I felt that. I felt like, okay, because I'm black, I'm not perfect or what. Because after that, okay, nothing is happening here. So that really ice because I was swollen forehead, I'm very swollen. That really ice. Then I was told there was no ice here.
What grade are you in?
12.
Grade 12. And how old is this boy?
He's 24. That's what I was told. He's 24.
He's 24 and still in school.
At high school?
Yes.
At 24.
I don't know how perfect that is. Okay, it's interesting because the conversation we're trying to understand, we speak about a non-racial school and we're speaking about post-1994. These are kids that have, both of them, have never been in the apartheid time. You know what I mean? I don't know, Prof, is this a case of normal school children? Are we labeling it as racism when it's not really racism?
I think it's racism, absolutely. And I think that it's coming out of parents' homes. And I think the challenge that we probably need to talk about is how to have parent conversations. So, and this is particularly in the white community. And I think that black parents should be encouraged, if they're not doing it already, to work with their children, to warn them about what racism looks like.
You know, what I want to find out from Ukahiso next to me is that it seems as if cases of racism, do you think in some schools they make sure that you don't find out about such cases?
Yeah, I think there is a lot that happens in schools that is definitely hidden and it definitely doesn't go to the media or the public. Nobody knows about it, you know. And I think maybe there's somehow an element of fear for people to actually talk about those things and voice it out, you know. Yeah.
It's very sad.
Yeah. We do have your mom on the line. Hello, Mama.
Hello, Mama.
Ninjani, Mama?
Sikhona kunjani?
Sikhona. Umtanako comes back home, ilihlo is very big. What are you saying as umzali when you send your child to a safe space esikoleni?
Ubuye ekhaya akazibuyelanga uhambile womlanda ngenxa yokufonelwa ngabanye abantwana bese umntana uyagula and iliso lakhe liyavaleka uyagabha. So xa ndimbona azange ndiphatheke kakuhle ngoba zange ndifumane ifoni evela esikolweni echazayo ukuba umntana ubethiwe or ube involved in a fight. I don't know.
Mamlebuntu, I just want to find out ukuthi uthole ngabanye abantwana ukuthi umntwana unenkinga. What happened to ifoni yakhe on the school? Kwenzakalani? Tell us about that.
Ndive ngabanye abantwana uba umntana akasekho right.
Wayena engakufonelanga?
Bengakwazi ukunifumana ngoba ifoni vele azivumelekanga esikolweni kodwa benzile indlela yoba bazisise baye etoilet banifonile bathi ngizolanda umntana.
So esikolweni mabachazela bathi what happened?
Esikolweni uthisala nifikele kuye kuthiwa uthisala we discipline. Akafunanga ungixelela ukuba kwenzeke ntoni.
Athi why?
Ngambuza ke mina ke uba kutheni begcina umntana ekusisimo akuso ngoba akafanelekanga ngokwembonakala ngaphandle bengafanelekanga uba usesesikolweni bese abandazisile. So uthisala wathi yena lo mntana akalimelanga akaboni into errong. Ndabuza uba ngabe ibinguwakhe na ngaba besamgcinile na esikolweni. Kwacaba ke ngumuntu ombi.
Okay.
Kodwa sizawuthethisana ndathi ke okwangoku ke manje benibalekisa umntana kuncedo lokuqala esibhedlela okanye kugqirha okufitshane.
Okay. Siyabonga kakhulu mama ngenxa yesikhathi so kumele ukuthi sinqamule. Bro Steve, quick one before say break in. Le situation enjengale, is it a case of racism or abantwana abalwile esikoleni according to indlela ebona ngayo wena?
Look, like as we said, the discipline, we give the responsibility to the SGP.
Yeah.
At any school, there's an SGP member who's responsible for discipline. Because the code of conduct they have. They agree on misconduct or not being misconduct and all that. So in this instance, what will normally happen, the school will interact with the parents. You can't even discipline or have a disciplinary process without the parents. Because parents must be present when you discipline learners. Even to an extent of asking them what transpired. You shouldn't do that. What you can do, you can precautionary suspend the learners for 4 days, or 5 days. But if there are examinations or any test that must be written, you give them an opportunity to write, and they need to be at home, and you give them a disciplinary date. They need to then come back and tell their story.
Okay.
You can't, without the parent and do that.
Can we just quickly go for an ad break? When we come back, we carry on with the conversation, because what it feels like to me is it might have been a fight between students, but now when it goes to the teacher, it becomes a racial thing because now they're being treated differently. But do stay with us after the break.
Now, more revelations of claims of racism at Eldorado Park schools in the south of Johannesburg. These emerged at day 2 of hearings convened by the Human Rights Commission, which is investigating claims of ongoing racism at the Klipspruit West Secondary School. Parents have denied claims.
Racism and discrimination, a thorny issue plaguing some institutions of learning. Domain High School, seemingly just among the guilty.
I believe that our school is administering racism towards black teachers.
Lorraine Moremi has been teaching at the school for 5 years.
The principal has once called me a headless chicken in a departmental meeting in front of my colleagues, and I became a laughingstock of the school.
And one question keeps haunting her every time she picks up the chalk.
Is Eldorado Park exclusively for colors? Then if it's so, the Department of Education needs to remove black teachers. No, that's basically how I feel. I believe that I am being subjected to racism. I believe that I am not recognized as a black person. I am being taken back to the days of apartheid.
Just 4 kilometers from her school, the embattled Klipspruit West Secondary. Here in July, racial tensions flared up as colored parents allegedly refused to have a black principal heading the institution.
We did not say we don't want a black principal. We said we want the best and we want them to do the proper procedure because protocol was literally not followed here.
The impasse left teaching and learning disrupted, leading to the SGB being dissolved.
Do you accept that there are many people in the country who will see the actions of members of the Eldorado Park community, rightly or wrongly, as racist or racially charged, and that it is definitely something that needs to be discussed and not just flatly denied?
Racist was never a word that we knew in Klipspruit. Until the NEC said we are racist. That word was never used in Klipspruit.
Welcome back to Daily Thetha. Racism mo dikolong, and from that insert it's not just a black and white thing. It's happening amongst other races, colored people, black people. And the thing is, at the end of the day, it impacts even the school and the children. Because if Barry Mistress Wao, Alimotomunzu cannot teach colored children, what does that really mean? If the school cannot have a black principal, what does that really mean? Because it feels like we're moving back to the years of racial segregation. And I'm not understanding, post-1994.
I have a question, Nicolette. I don't know whether maybe it's a true reflection of who we are. Maybe behind doors, that's what we're talking about.
Perhaps.
And we expect our kids all of a sudden to be just perfect kids when ourselves,
Sure. We do have Gashua Brooks, who's from Communications at the South African Human Rights Commission, to have this conversation with us. Welcome to Daily Thetha, Thetha Brooks. But before we get into it, we just want to tie up the issue with SA2. SA2, can you tell us a little bit, Jorge, this situation in Nzegale, how does it make you feel, your self-esteem as a young African child?
For a while, my self-esteem did
just
die.
put the mic closer to yes.
For a while, my self-esteem did die because I lost vision of my dreams. I didn't know why I was going to school anymore because I had to go back to school and write my tests before I could be moved to another school. It destroyed me completely.
Are you still in the same school?
No, I'm not in the same school.
So you've had to change schools even?
Yes, I had to.
Mid-year?
Yeah.
Sure. How did that affect your schooling and your education and settling into a new school?
Especially during the trip.
Yeah. Settling in wasn't that hard for me. But having to change, new people, like...
New friends.
New friends. I had to leave everything behind. Everyone I knew. For 4 years I've been in the same school, but I had to change. Okay, it did destroy, like for a while, like the school, for term 1, my marks are not as... It's not what I expected them to be, but okay.
In this new school,
yeah, there is.
Are you afraid of them?
Not really. Okay. Because it's an English school.
So it's a purely English school?
Yeah, English.
All right.
Kasho, let's come to you. The conversation is because we see these things almost every day. Is this who we are as Abantu in South Africa?
I think, just to add some context, and I think we've discussed it to some extent, I think the Prof also mentioned it, is that, look, we do have a history of racial segregation. And in as much as we had a negotiated settlement, a constitution, and a setup that obviously spoke of non-racialism, and we led by large by a party and a government that is non-racial in its outlook and its philosophy and thinking, the fact of the matter is that by merely saying that we're now non-racial doesn't necessarily fix the issue. People on the 26th of April 1994 who were racist and had particular ideas in terms of racism didn't suddenly change their minds on the 27th and the 28th of April 1994.
But Gashua, those people are no longer in schools. The people that are in schools now are a new generation of South Africans. How is it possible that those kids are also still racist?
Well, I mean, we have to also be honest about the fact that we inform the ideologies and the thinking of our young people. You know, if you are racist, chances are you're going to pass that on to your children. You're going to inform them of those particular ideas, and you don't necessarily have to do it directly. And I think that's part of what the conversation has been. Is a lot of the time, a lot of the young people have been saying that the racism that they encounter is not necessarily direct. No one's calling them by certain words, you know, that are very clearly, obviously, blatantly racist. It's an undertone. It's something that you can't quite pinpoint. It's something that you can't specifically put your finger on. And I think that's part of it, is that if it's even in terms of attitude and understanding and the assumptions that we make. And I think that is the first battle that we need to overcome. And I sound like a stuck record saying this. It is not just the responsibility of government, the South African Human Rights Commission, other Chapter 9 institutions. It is all of us. It's civil society. It's what are people being informed in their churches? What are people doing in their homes, in the work environment? And it's a massive issue that does need addressing at one point or the other.
You know, Kini, where I used to see it, sorry, you know, I used to see it a lot. Go sports. If you look at the sports that is played predominantly by black kids, it's not supported at the schools. Rugby, skeet, we had skeet at school, yes. All of a sudden they hiring the best buses. We didn't even have volleyball. I had netball, but it was still an African sport when I was at school.
Cool. Let me just take something coming from Akua, which I remember at the time at school, we were getting address about our hair. After were not welcome and braids were referred to as bushes. Racism is very much still alive in school. Nothing has changed. That's what we're going to be talking about Masibuya, because Umbali as well next to me. Uzobangichazela experience yakhe ayithola njengomntwana usemncane sesikoleni asamenze break isabuya futhi. Welcome back to iDaily Thetha. Zakhuluma about racism legcwele ezikoleni esibona almost usuku nosuku. And before se break ngeke ngasho ukuthi umbali uzoba sicakisela istory sakhe because umntwana omncane but kumhlukumeze kakhulu ukuzithola esesikwaleni sabamhlophe. Tell us the story, Mbali.
Mina ngumuntu othanda ukuparticipate entweni zesikolo. Bengicula ichoir. So mase kuma competition every time masihlala masingena immediately bebasikhomba at the other side where kugcwele abantu abamnyama kuphela mothebe ngapha kugcwele abelungu so thina njengabantwana sabathanda belungu ngisho besihlala nabo as in like mofika uhlala kanje ubesukuma ayohlala nomngane wakhe lapha yana behleka ungazuthi okay behlekani then when you feeling uncomfortable or don't maybe you smelling not nice.
So kahle kukwenza ufile kanjani ukuthi ufuzohlala nomuntu umuntu uyasuka and the next thing sebeyahleka?
No, kungenza ngifile ngenye indlela as in like angifani naye asinalo igazi elilodwa kanti ayisihluke ngombala.
Gift uthena we need to move on. And do you think we need to move on or kumele sihlale phansi sikhulume le ndaba njengoba sayikhuluma nje ngo-2018?
Mina ngicabanga ukuthi ukuhlala phansi sikhulume le ndaba kungaba isolution enkulu ngoba njengamanje ngibona oyedwa umlungu ngabe bakhona basijoinile la ngabe mhlambe kuba khona ukubalansana.
Okay, Gift umzulu Mbali nomzulu esethu as well. Esimene sika esethu ucabanga ukuthi engamuva kanjani on after esehlumezeke kanjena wazo washintsha nesikole nabangani uqobo lwakhe? Phamsela microphone.
Esithi ngimzwile ne akhuluma in the story sakhe singithintile kakhulu because ngeke ngayitness at a point of view discrimination and it was very difficult and you know what's worse and into yenza ukuthi I discrimination continue kube into ongoing ukuthi abayi address because issue yakhe vele waba like okay yenzekile esethi baye bamshaya esikolweni move on samthatha simoso kwesinye isikolo azaye baphane ngeplatform webhayi bazothi no so thetha esethu sithathe lo mntana nomlungu and then ba address ama issue abo simamele esethu and then simamele lo mntana nomlungu sibone ukuthi boy2 evaluate ukuthi bano wrong and then sibaphanisha kanjani but then it was a matter of ukuthi no umlungu right and then nakubo esethu bathi side about no lesikolo asikho right for yena samthatha samove and then so like no abelungu discrimination understand. So ilento engisho ngithi discrimination inama roots and ama roots la angazanga akhatha so if ever kuzoba so each and every time big actual event baba like no okay siyayisave thina abantu abamnyama ithisibaleke asi-address isazoqhubeka but then if ever siya-addressa ama-issue and then isikhathe off ama-roots we can move on.
Okay, Nicolette.
Esethu, people are saying move on, it's over now, it's done, ukushayile, move on. How do you feel about that?
Okay.
I'm moving on, but still, in inhliziyo ebuhlungu because I did try ukuthi ndilungise le ndaba like ukuthi kuhlalwe phansi ilungiswe ixoxwe, but they were not willing to listen. Abantwana baba ne protest esikolweni, but kwabizwe security ezabantu abangabelungu which followed them to the toilet for that day. Why? Zange bavume ukuhlala nabo sithi sathetha nabo, zange bavume. I was only told ukuthi if ndifuna uhlala kwesa sikolo esa I have to go to anger management classes. And I'm not an angry person, but if I'm benzo ku anger management class, yena ebezoyapi because umdala akasangeni kwi anger management things and all kwi juvie kwintoni uzoyapi yena.
Sure. Professor, as somebody who's got a child of color, I mean, it must be, you almost feel like you're on either side of this equation. How does it make you feel? Because I sit back and I'm like, everybody's saying, let's have this conversation together. And we're saying the other party must also come. But the other party is enjoying this privilege. It's enjoying being treated like these perfect learners at school. How do they then let go? How did you feel that, you know, for you to be able to accommodate your child, you have to understand the other side?
So I was able to see inside of what one could call a community of white parents, and that frightened me a lot because I realized that these parents were very unreflective about anti-racism in schools. And so I immediately then approached the school to say, you've got a wonderful policy on anti-bullying, a wonderful social media policy, you don't even address anti-racism. And when somebody says to my son in a playground, you've got a disgusting face, that's bullying and racism, right, in this case. So I want to talk about bystander racism as part of the definition of racism. Because not all white people think the same, not all colored people, people have different positions. And so if you're in a playground and you see an act of racism going on in front of you, particularly between your friends, it's incumbent upon you to ask them to stop immediately and to have a place to report them immediately. If you don't do that, it seems to me that it's tantamount to racism. So I want us as South Africans to talk about bystander racism as a form of racism in schools. What is an anti-racist school for my son? It's when I know that when he's on the playground and I'm not there, his own friends will protect him by calling out other people. I think that's
despite the color of their race.
Yeah.
In closing, Gashwala, I want to find out from you, the Human Rights Commission to assist in a situation as beginning now so that we cannot go back and forth with this conversation?
Well, in this particular instance, I'll implore people to obviously report this matter. Of course, the Department of Basic Education also assists with these issues. They deal with these issues by taking disciplinary action and the necessary action. But from the South African human rights perspective, of course, these violations can be reported. Because as you can hear, it's coming from all sides. It's from teachers, it's from other learners and so forth. So please reach out to us on www.sahrc.org.za to report this particular issue. Our website contains all the contact details that you'll need, whether you want to lodge it by telephone in your particular province or via email. But this is a final thought very quickly. It's worrisome that 24 years later, this is some of the issues that we're dealing with. And I think if you look at our very long history, we need to get to a point where we need to understand that we all need to get along, despite religion, culture, background, race, all of those issues. We're here to stay, guys. And at some point, we need to accommodate, and not just accommodate each other, but get along.
We have to get along with each other at the end of the day. We had a show yesterday where we were talking about the broken man. Social media. So basically,
yes, we're going to carry on with that conversation. We need to find out what's a halal. Next week, please do tune in again. But as we know, you always tune in every single day, Monday to Thursday, 10:30 on SABC 1. Thank you very much.